Straw, welcome to the podcast, man. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome. A little bit of background. Straw, we met probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago when you were cutting my hair.
Yeah.
And I guess in the field of being a barber, it's probably got a little bit of similarity to some of the fitness world in that you got to have the gift of the gab and you're there to have some chats. And we found ourselves twisting and turning on some really interesting conversations, which I've enjoyed, which is, I guess, ultimately what's brought us here today to get into it, man.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I feel like if you, like, there's your job, and then if you want to go that, like, little bit extra mile, like, you could be a PT and just telling people to do the exercises. But if you want to connect with someone, you try to get deeper, want to get to know them.
100%.
Yeah, but it's the perfect, because it's not like I became a barber because I was like, you know, like, yeah, I like cutting hair, but it was like that intimate conversation, like that community that you can create from like a space. And I think it's like pretty similar to a gym as well, and like what you created as well here.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's obviously something that's very universal that you can take anywhere with you too.
For sure. I've gotten to travel to like 3 different countries cutting hair, which I'm pretty happy about. Like, I lived in the Netherlands for a while. I got to go to New Zealand. And then whenever I've traveled, I've just like, you know, cut hair randomly along the way.
And you've done them in mid-doofs as well sometimes.
Yeah, dusty dance floor haircuts. Yeah.
Some of your finest work, no doubt.
100%.
Mate, where are you originally from? You're not originally from Australia, are you?
Yeah, well, I was born in Melbourne in Thomastown.
Yeah.
My mum is Italian, my father's Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, mainly like my parents split when I was really young, so I was like predominantly raised by like my nonna and nonno.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was like mixed culture, everything. It was weird, like, you know, with my Italian side, they're like, you're Egyptian. When I'm with my Egyptian side, they're like, you're Italian. And then I might go to school in Melbourne and they're like, where are you from? You don't look Australian. And it's like this weird.
Was that ever problematic or bothering?
I guess like for my own like sense of where do I fit in the world, I always found like never really fit anywhere in particular. And I guess maybe that's what drew me into like, you know, being in a barber shop in a community. Because like I felt a little bit out of place wherever I was. And, you know, finding music or trying to find my own community, I definitely was always like something I looked for, because like it was always a little bit of everything. But then I realized like I'm a little bit of everything anyway, and I'm my own self. But definitely when I was younger, like even because I was mainly raised I lived with my mum and my sister, so I didn't see my dad as often. So then like struggling to find like being a pretty feminine guy, even though I'm straight, but just because I was around women all the time. And then, you know, looking for like trying to like, I would say only pretty recently realizing that, yeah, I am masculine and I am feminine also. And I'm, with all my things, just a little bit of everything. And like, you know, I've only started training like in the last few years because I realized like it's, you know, feels good to move and lift weights and, you know, box and stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Where like I never was interested in exercising as a kid because, you know, I grew up with like the Muzz phase. So the only people that went to the gym were people who were shredding for Stereosonic.
I was going to say was and I feel like that probably is a bit of a deterrent for a lot of people. Sometimes that kind of jock, kind of stereotype in a way, like you said, that you maybe felt like you struggled to find your place and where you're fitting in. Do you still feel like that?
No, not at all. It was definitely like, I think like most kids go through that though, you know, especially when you're a teenager, you're like not quite an adult, not quite a kid, you're like in between.
Yeah.
You know, you're coming into your body, but there's still so much in the world that you don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like when you're sort of stepping into that like early part of adolescence there, when you are meant to be sort of trying to form your identity and it is all a little bit volatile, and you've probably got a greater need for that sense of belonging than perhaps, or me personally, than where I do now. And if anything, bro, you know, you've described yourself as someone who's quite unique there, and in fact that was probably my earliest appreciation for getting to know you, you know what I mean? Like,
thanks,
it's good to meet people that aren't just the same as everyone else, and if anything, I think it's a good thing. I like to not feel like I belong, and probably almost in a direct opposition to yours in a way is that being someone who was always, I guess, always maybe would fit perfectly into the stereotype that I just described of the jock that you want to probably not be around, is that because that's what's very visible, that's what you get labelled as and think, oh, he's just a gym bro, and there's actually nothing more to the depth of personality in a way.
Yeah, well, I think that's what made me appreciate ballroom because, I don't know, I think like, well, school's a weird place, I think, for everyone.
Fucking oath.
So like, you know, you're like told to fit into a box, and then if you don't quite fit in the box, kind of left on the outskirts. And then, you know, school's meant to be the representation of preparing you for life. And then you're meant to be like, and then, you know, I was like hating school because I was like, fuck, is this what the world's going to be like?
Well, for somebody who's a pretty free thinker.
Yeah, definitely.
No wonder it didn't go so smooth.
And then, you know, they're like, oh, these are going to be the best years of your life. And I'm like, hope not.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but then they're, you know, they're treating like children still, but then they're also saying, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, that's a pretty fucking big question to ask someone who is still trying to work out their, you know, where they fit. And then, you know, I remember when I finished school, I was like, oh my God, there's a big wide world out there, and I felt really good. And you know, those like stereotypes that are created, they're just like something that it's not real. Like, you know, you may have qualities of whatever, but you're still like an individual person. And then what I like, you know, I grew up north side, and I was like, I'm never going south side ever. I was like that person. And then I like moved down here, started working in Pran, and then I met all these people, and I'm like, wow, people are just people. And there is no, even though there is like a little stereotype, but people, you know.
Do you think people try and be that stereotype because they are north side, maybe? Like there's an element of that?
I think there is, but there isn't. Because like I feel like you could, you know, I'm sure you would feel when you sit down with anyone, someone from you can find common ground with anyone.
For sure.
So like I think, like, you know, I've had some like pretty, you know, I would consider myself like centre left on my political views or whatever. And then I would sit down in like the barber chair with some like really far right wing thinkers. And after we like talking about, you know, different things about the world, we both realised that even though we have different opinions, the only reason why we care is because we care, or we're having a conversation, is because we actually care about the world. So that's like a common ground. Because if neither of us cared, we wouldn't even have an opinion. So we both come from like a sense of compassion, I guess, like by having an opinion.
Hey man, that's an interesting. Like, I don't want to go down this path yet. I actually want to stay with the education stuff for a second. But it was again one of the reasons that appealed to me to actually get you on is because, you know, for those that follow me, they know that on the occasion I poke some fun at the vegan community more for their nutritional aspects, but it's a perfect example of you and I having opposing views. But that's okay. We can still get along. 100%. We can still be friends. We can still have a conversation. I don't think you're a bad person just because you have a different belief or choice of what you put in your mouth. And I think then we need more of that. Everybody, especially after the last couple of years that we've been through, if you have a different view, wow, just the axe comes down. You know?
No, but I prefer to surround myself with people who are different from me. If I wanted to hear the same thing, I'll just talk to a wall.
If you stay around the same people that have always got the same views, then all you're going to have is a bunch of yes men that just came to validate your own opinion and never challenge it, and you're going to, I guess, stay the same, mate. You're never going to evolve. With school, did you find that there was a lot of fear mongering there as well?
For sure. I went to a Catholic school.
Okay.
So, you know, they, I guess like, it was a very strange school because like, I guess like, well, I don't really have I only went to like one school, but like it was like, you know, got to wear the uniform, got to do this, got to tick your box, like, and then even like, you know, I was really fat as a kid too, so like bullying and all that crap, but it was just like I think like the point where like they wouldn't teach certain topics because of like religion. And then like trying to just like rule you with fear, which is just like not helpful or anything at all like that.
The future of school and education is what scares me a little bit when.
Would you have kids?
Well, that's what I mean. Manifesting the prospect of having children, which is something that I'd like to have in the next couple of years. But it is, it's a scary thought. Fuck, what am I going to do from a education point of view? Because, again, when we look at, I guess, the rights or the power that's being given to the education system to basically influence, your children's beliefs and views, it's a little bit scary if you don't necessarily agree with it as well. And I think when you look at, I could speak to my experiences at that age. I probably listened to my peers more than my parents anyway.
100%. Yeah, I definitely did. Well, I felt like, being given an answer to do a thing, but without an explanation. Do this. Why? Because I said so. Because I'm the authority. Where's your conversation? There's no room for conversation.
Hang on 1 second. Bronson, shut up, mate. You've been a sook and I can hear you crying through the headphones.
What's wrong?
You can just see dogs over in the park.
That's okay.
Sorry, continue. Where were we? Schooling, influence.
Yeah, I definitely listen to my peers more than them, but there's no room for conversation whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I think I would, if I had children, I don't think I'm going to have children. I don't think I'd be a great parent. And plus, I don't think I can find anyone I would want to reproduce with.
I struggle to accept that from you. Why do you think you wouldn't be a good parent?
I don't know. I think with my goals and what I'm trying to do, and what I hope to do in the future and the type of person I would want to be, I would want to completely give myself to that. And if you have a kid, your kid becomes your world. Mm-hmm. And maybe one day I would.
So maybe just not now. Maybe it might be 10, 20 years.
I always thought maybe adopt, I might meet my kid or something. I might be put, but I don't think I'm not, it ends here.
That's fine. So what are those goals? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do with it?
Well, I've worked, because I used to be a disability support worker and did a bit of youth work and stuff. And that was what drew me towards barbering, because I felt that it's a babysitting program. And you're just kind of looking after people until they're old enough, they get chucked into the system and they become a number. And it's kind of changed a little bit, but I just felt I didn't like being under a blanket of especially under government or whatever. And then I thought of a barbershop, and I saw this cool video of a barbershop, and I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. People come in, they talk, and I think for young men who don't have male role models, or just to be around a friendly, positive, masculine environment too. And even in barbershops, there are women as well. But I think I only talk from my experience, growing up, wishing that I had a bit more open conversation, because I think with my upbringing.
But don't you think that's exactly what could make you a really good parent?
Yeah, but then
I would have that open conversation and give them that safe space.
But I feel if I had this shop, I would want to be the type of person that can be if anyone needs anything, you call me, I come running. If I have a kid, that's not happening. My kid's always going to come first. And I've I think as much as I love my my family and my upbringing, but because they were really strict and culture, I had to keep so much of my personal life a secret. When you're getting older, experiment sex, drugs, all that shit. I'd put myself in really hectic situations, and then I wish I had an adult where I could be man, I fucked up.
Yeah,
I need help.
I can relate to that.
Yeah,
I can relate to that for sure.
Which in a way I'm grateful for, that I had to work it out myself. But then when I looked, there were some lessons I didn't have to learn. It would have been really nice because then that created really weird fucked up issues. And then if I just had someone that I could be hey, do you think this is a good idea, and not have someone yell at me. But I think that's what our generation will be. So if you were talking about being a parent, I would probably homeschool my kids, to be honest. I would probably get I would have a English and maths tutor.
Yep.
Because that's important, for them to learn, get them to be really articulate. Maths, computers, get them personal tutors, and get them to do social things with other kids, fun, sport, whatever.
Mate, I feel you so hard on that. It's just, again, I think in my experience, when I've even mentioned the idea of homeschooling to, you know, an authority figure, maybe that even is my parents,
Yeah.
over, you know, the last maybe 5 years, when, you know, just exploring the idea, it often gets met with a no script of, oh,
Yeah.
no, the kids need this and this and this. But again, I just think you look at the curriculum of what actually is being taught, and they're actually, you know, you said it yourself before, they feel like, oh, what do you want to do in the world?
Yeah.
And that's meant to be the representation of being prepared for life. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost the polar opposite. It's preparing you to be a worker that doesn't have their own ideas and way of
Have you
thinking.
seen that TED Talks by Sir Ken Robinson?
No.
It's called "The Education System is Designed to Kill Your Creativity."
Mm-hmm.
And he pretty much just talks about like the hierarchy of the education system, how you have like, like literacy and science and all that. That's like on the top, and then you have like humanities, and then you have like arts and everything on the bottom.
Yeah.
And he's like, why is like one more important than the other? And he goes, yes, it's important for a kid to know how to like read and write, but it's also important for them to know how to express themselves through art. For like personal things. It's not just about money. And he goes, if everyone went through the education system properly and ticked every box and got A+, he goes, everyone would be like a college professor. And he goes, so you've got this system designed to create college professors, and how many college professors do we really have? He goes, so I would like give them the basics, let them enjoy life.
You need the basics
and
of
get
your
them
English,
to
your
explore
science, your maths.
for sure, it's important. And get them to explore the world. Get them to like volunteer like at a homeless shelter, or, you know, where they can like see things and see the world for what it is. And then
I feel like the social interaction is almost the biggest thing that you learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is available beyond just the standard schooling system.
Yeah.
And probably becoming a little bit more popular.
Yeah.
As time goes by. I think we're still definitely the minority.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's trending.
I think so. I definitely see, like I've noticed with like people that, you know, I grew up with, some are like more thinking like maybe everything they told us was a lie. And like, you know, well, I think there's a point with like the adults in your life, you put them on a pedestal, like they're the authority, they're older than me, they know that. And then you get to a point in your life where you're like, well, you're not actually participating in the world anymore. And you're like, you know, you're like retired, where we're watching we're seeing what's happening and the choices. We still have to like live in the future.
I was just about to say, I feel like the concern isn't so much there for the change because they're cool, they're set up.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, you know, as problematic for them if they've got,
I think
the security with property, and
Yeah.
they don't have to be as concerned with the economy and the difficulty and the price of living and what it actually means to be able to not be stuck on that rat wheel.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about that before, even when you've been back over in Italy and Europe and stuff, and they discuss the lifestyle and the working hours, and they just think we're crazy because they're over there not living to work.
Yeah, when
they do their work and spend their time with their families, and
I would tell them that, you know, people in Australia, you know, work 5-6 days a week, drive an hour and a half to and from work every day, and then they're like, when do you see your family and friends? And I'm like, you just don't. Like, you don't. You have to. And I think that's part of because we're like in the development phase of our country. We're still like young.
Well, we are. We're still a young country.
We're still, you know, building everything like that. We're growing further and further out. And so we're not we don't have a culture, essentially. Like, that's why I like living in a city. I like living around here. It feels like, even though it's like it feels like a country town.
Because it's diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, you walk down the street, like Prahran, Windsor, Chapel Street during the day, where it's like all the locals, you walk down, hi, how you doing? Like, you know, they're all the same people. Not much of a fan of the nighttime anymore, but like the daytime, it's nice. It's a real community. You go out to the suburbs, like on a like shopping centre, white, sterile, big brands. Like, I hate big brands. Like, small local business. Like, you know, not just like bombarded with this shit that's like, you know, made overseas in some sweatshop, and they're pouring all the toxic chemicals into, like, no, like, go where you go to a business and you see the boss behind the counter, and when you give money to the business, you're like giving it directly to them.
Do you think there's been, with lockdowns and things like that, not a paradigm shift, not as extreme as that, but just more of a conscious thought for people to support local since? Or do you think it was very short-lived and has been forgotten?
I think it's been a bit, people have forgotten a little bit, to be honest.
People forget quick, don't they?
Yeah, like, at the barber shop I worked at, everything's gone up, and we've increased the prices of haircuts, because all the barbers' rent has gone up too.
Yep.
And
I think they said the cost of living in Australia has gone up 24% since the start of COVID.
my rent has gone up to a quarter of my monthly wage. It's not fucked. And I live in a shared house. And my boss increased the prices so we can get paid more.
Yep.
That's how small businesses work.
And mate, it's been hard because even as a business owner, I get it. I've got huge amounts of deferred payments of rent and stuff that's coming up that kind of has me, spinning my wheels just
trying to
for the next, for that timeline until we're back on the sort of even space. And it's like, oh, well, everybody, it's almost to be expected that you're going to increase your prices.
Definitely.
But then I also have this maybe a moral discomfort within me knowing that, we are already a higher priced gym because of its sort of unique model in being quite exclusive and restricted to a capped number of members and things like that. And, everyone's already struggling to then go increasing the prices again. It's like when I'm looking at the space of exercise, fitness and training, there's already so many psychological barriers and lifestyle barriers for people to make positive change, to make the cost of that entry even higher. It's something about it feels wrong for me. But in the same time, I guess, all of these problems come with solutions. Yeah. And that's where I guess I've tried to create the app to be able to deliver my services to a greater level of people with a much more affordable kind of reach. You know what I mean?
But I think people are starting to realize that, when I started training and I was looking at memberships, and I'll talk to my housemate, she'll be like, oh, that's $30 a week. That's expensive. I'm like, are you kidding me? I still drink 3 espresso martinis.
It's all perspective, isn't it?
And I'm like, $30 is a week for your health.
Yep.
For something that's positive for you, or whatever, or however much. Even if it's $100 a week. You wouldn't, if you went out for a dinner, couple drinks, you wouldn't bat an eye spending $200.
Exactly, same thing. For anything that's sort of superficial, you need that new t-shirt for the weekend or whatever, you'll do it without blinking.
But then when it's something that's for your health, you second guess it. Or
I feel like that's tied in a little bit with kind of this instant gratification dopamine model, in that we as a society, I believe, have become less and less patient because everything has become so accessible through technology. And I've spoken about this a few times on podcasts and things where it's like, you used to want to meet someone and find a intimate partner. You had to go introduce yourself. You had to say, hey, can we go take you out for dinner? I'll pick you up on Friday night at 8. You'd go see them, and then you might not see them again for a week. These days you're just swiping right. If you wanted to have food, we used to have to farm, we used to have to grow crops, and produce your food. Now you're just entering on Uber Eats. You want to watch a movie,
Magic
Netflix,
Tree.
Stan. You used to have to at least wait till it came out of the movies and wait in line. And it's like, so now there's this kind of unrealistic expectation that if we want something, we can have it pretty much immediately with the click of our fingers. But the human body and your health is the one thing that technology is not going to be able to bullshit.